Welcome. So today I wanted to talk about polar opposites, non-duality. The fact that we need both opposites to exist, the good and the bad, the hard and the easy, the sad and the joyful, the pain and the pleasure, the ups and downs. We live in a world of duality, a world that has opposites. We have good days, bad days. The sun comes up, the sun comes down. We have nighttime and daytime. So we live in this world of duality, of opposites. And these opposites exist for each other. That these opposites, the energy of good and bad, of easy and hard, of pain and pleasure, of sadness and joy, these opposites are actually entwined with each other. That they are the same. That without things being hard, there wouldn't be things to be easy. It's the same. If we only had easy, how would we know it to be easy compared to what? How would we know it to be easy? How would we know it to be more favorable in contrast to something else? We wouldn't. So we wouldn't know easy to be great or better if we didn't have hard. If we didn't have the pain, then how would we know something to be pleasurable? If we only experienced pleasurable experiences, then we wouldn't know them to be pleasurable. We wouldn't know them to be any better than anything else. So we need that pain. We need that discomfort. We need the opposites of good and bad. They exist for each other. And they can't exist without each other. They are one. They are actually the same at a fundamental level. They are the one energy. And of course, there's subjectivity to this. So there's degrees of things being hard, and there are degrees of things being easy. And it's all relative to you through our perspective. See, something may be very easy for me, but very hard for you. And something may be very hard for me, but so easy for you. Something may be painful for me, but then may be more enjoyable for you. So it's very interesting, and then it obviously fluctuates on our level of vibration and our perception. And so we think something is hard, something is painful, something is bad, but then there's degrees of things being bad. There's levels to that. And people might think my life's bad, I've got this wrong, that wrong. And then if you look at the subjectivity and you start to compare yourself to maybe people in third world country, you'll probably think, oh, like I haven't really got it that bad. Like my problems are like petty compared to people in those third world countries. And this is huge, because a lot of people are comparing themselves to the wrong people. They're comparing themselves to television or social media. They're comparing themselves to the top 0.01%, instead of really questioning and thinking, where do you sit? So when it comes down to whether your life is good or the experiences you're experiencing are hard or difficult or good or bad, you can take a step back and think, compared to who? Because if you're watching this video, most likely it's a high chance you're in the top 90% of the world in wealth, in opportunity, in situations. And that doesn't mean that you're more happier than those people, but it means that you just are in a better position. Your problems are probably less. You have the basic fundamentals taken care of. If you're watching this video, you're most likely in a first world country. We have roof over your head, shelter, food, basics, hot water, shower, bed, which there's a big majority of the planet that don't have that taken care of. So this is huge. We think something's bad, we think something's hard, but in comparison to what? In comparison to what? And a great example here is temperatures, different temperatures. Now we see all these different temperatures, but do we rate a temperature as being good or bad? Is something that's cold better or more favorable than something that's hot? Is one of them better than the other? No. We need the heat. It's a good thing to have heat. And then there's a good thing to have cold. Obviously, when you go into the extreme of each opposite, that's when they can become dangerous and obviously life-threatening. But you can see that we need both those opposites there. And not one of those opposites is perceived as being good or bad. And then there's such degrees to whether they're good or bad. There's such degrees into that temperature. Just like something that's bad or good, something that's hard or easy, something that's painful or pleasurable, there's degrees to that. So just an example, it may be a cold day for you, a very cold day, and you're thinking it's cold. And then you could say, well, in comparison to your fridge, it's not cold. That your fridge is cold in comparison to the day. And then you can say your fridge compared to your freezer is not cold. That in that comparison, your freezer is actually the one that's cold. And the fridge is warmer. And then you can compare your freezer to Antarctica. And you can say, wow, well, my freezer is actually quite warm compared to Antarctica. So you can even go further with this and compare Antarctica to space. And you can think, wow, Antarctica is actually warm compared to space. So it's all subjective. It's all subjective compared to what you are comparing it to. That this energy ultimately is the same. So something that's hard, there's degrees to the hardness. There's degrees to the pain. There's degrees to things that are easy. And it changes. You know, someone may be tall compared to a child, but then compared to a basketball player, they're short. So everything is different. Everything is relative. And so when we can look at these energies and see that we have these many, many polar opposites, and they come, they go. Sometimes we experience certain polarities for one time of our life, and then we experience the other polarity. And from what I've noticed, that when we dive into one polarity more deeply, when we dive, say, into something that's hard, we're also diving into something that's easy. We're learning about things that are easy also. Because with that hard experience, we're able to notice things that are easier. So without your struggle, where would you find that ease in something? Without something that's creating a lot of effort and making you tired, something that's really stressful, where would you find your relaxation? So we need to almost even thank that these polar opposites exist. You know, for us to have the rest at night, for us to sit back and think, I'm relaxing now, this is enjoyable. If it wasn't for things that are difficult, stressful, and hard, then we wouldn't know that experience of relaxation to be enjoyable. We wouldn't even enjoy it. It's because of that hard time. It's because of that stressful time. It's because of that painful time that we're able to experience those opposite polarities. And these polarities will come and go. You know, these experiences don't stay with us. Sometimes we learn something for a long period of time. We might stay in a polarity for longer. And then when we're staying in that polarity for longer, we really appreciate the opposite of that. So for me, I experienced anxiety, a huge polarity. For many years, constant anxiety and panic attacks. And then, because of me experiencing that, I was also basically learning and becoming a master in its opposite, which was being calm, which was being present to the moment, which was feeling relaxed and grounded. And if it wasn't for me feeling ungrounded, then I wouldn't know to feel grounded is a good experience. So these experiences need to exist. We need both. People think that if we live in a world where we're only happy, or we only experience things that are easy, and if everything just gets handed to us, eventually you just won't appreciate it. You won't know it to be good. If you were brought up in a world where everyone was just happy, you wouldn't know it to be happy. You wouldn't even know it. It'd just be is what it is. It wouldn't be good or bad. It'd just be is. But because things exist that are bad, that are hard, that are painful, because they exist, we know the contrast. We know that there's a difference. It gives us a substantial notice of something that's different. So, if you are going through an experience sometime in your life and you don't like it, give thanks to that, because of that experience, because you're experiencing that, whatever it may be, you're going to experience the opposite. And because of that experience, you're going to appreciate the opposite even more. Even more. So when, if you've ever been to a third world country and, the water's not clean and maybe the rooms aren't clean and it's really hot and muggy and there's a lot of toxins in the environment, pollution, food's a bit not clean. And then you come back to a first world country, you're like, oh wow, like I really appreciate this. But you don't know that it's good until you experience that contrast, that third world experience. When I go camping, when I go hiking, I'm on minimal food. I have to carry my backpack with me. I can't take all my clothes. I have to source water and clean water. If it's raining, I haven't got the best shelter, haven't got the comfiest bed. So just even one night of that experience, I come back home the next day and I'm like, oh wow, it's so good to just wash my hands, to have a shower. So good to have my comfy bed. Wow, I've got like Wi-Fi here. I've got a kitchen where I can chop on. I've got chopping boards and things like that where I didn't have out there. So these experiences that we experience help us to see and appreciate the opposite. They give us a greater appreciation. If you were just born into a castle and everyone was just in castles and everyone was rich and everyone just got hand-fed, you wouldn't know that to be good. Eventually, you're just going to get up, like you're still going to be complaining, you're still going to be wanting more things, you're going to be looking for something else. Like it's not going to be a great experience because you don't know it to be a great experience. If you were brought up, and that's why you see like people who were brought up in a poor family or, started off poor and then earned their wealth, they appreciate it a lot more than if you were just brought straight into wealth. If you were brought straight into wealth, then it's less appreciation. And that's obviously like not everyone. But you can see it, like basically if you're living in a first world country, a lot of people are living in castles. Everyone is living in a great house. Everyone's got food on the table. Everyone's got shelter. Everyone's got everything they need. And we still compare. We still want more. So who are you comparing yourself to? Are you the fridge comparing yourself to space? Are you the fridge comparing your temperature to Antarctica? Because the fridge is still cold. The freezer's still cold. Antarctica's still cold. The day you're experiencing is still cold. But it's all relative, and it all just depends on what you're comparing yourself to. So don't compare yourself to that 0.1%. Don't. Be happy with what you have. Realize that it's already here. It's already right here. So these experiences, these polar opposites, when you dive into one area, like I was saying, when I dived into anxiety, for many years, when I was experiencing certain situations that were basic, like going to a shopping center, going out to dinner, driving my car, going to a friend's house or a birthday party, I would experience anxiety through all those experiences. So then when the anxiety shifted and I would experience the same, the same moments, the same experiences of going to a shopping center, going out to dinner, going to the movies, or driving my car, or going to a friend's house. When I would experience them without the anxiety, I was a lot more grateful. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And for everyone else, it was just normal. They didn't know the contrast. But because I went through all that pain, I appreciated the experience a lot more. It's like being dirty and clean. Like, what is being clean if you're always clean? If you're always cleanly washed, then how would you know that you're clean? When you go out and you get dirty and you go, these days everyone stays very clean. They stick to the footpaths and they're always trying to be clean. But if it wasn't for you getting dirty, then you wouldn't feel the need to be clean. If you weren't feeling confused, you wouldn't feel the need to find clarity. So we have all these opposites, and they need to exist. They are one and the same. They're interconnected. And you'll realize this. And you'll realize this massively. That when you are experiencing a polar opposite, you're becoming an expert in also its massive contrast. So if you're going through hard times, you're going to experience a lot of easy times. If you're going through painful times, you're going to experience a lot of pleasurable times. If you're going through a lot of sad times, you're going to experience a lot of joyful times. And vice versa. I've seen this when I've tried to experience pleasurable times a lot in my life through drugs and alcohol and junk food and all that type of stuff to seek an instant gratification. Eventually that led up into pain. And it led into me suffering. But so it's interesting the way it works. If you dive into one polarity, it's going to flip and go into the other. If you dive into the other polarity, it's going to flip and go into the other one. And this is obviously, if you go into the extreme of something, it'll take you into the extreme of the opposite. So be thankful for these opposites. Be thankful of these contrasts. Just like an arrow that gets pulled back, the further you pull back into that polarity, the further it shoots. The further it shoots. So if you are experiencing something right now in your life, then you can see, what is its opposite? What is the opposite of what am I experiencing? And know that you are becoming an expert in its opposite. You're becoming an expert in the whole energy field. Because just like a temperature, they are all intertwined. And you will see eventually that these polarities, there aren't any that are good or bad. They're just different temperatures. They're just different sides, hot and cold. Something that's hot and cold, they're not good or bad, are they? Like, we need fire, we need things to be hot, we need things to be cold. Like, they're both good. None of them are bad, but they're so different, aren't they? And this is very similar to when we experience opposites. And so all these experiences will come and go. They will. And this doesn't mean, oh, wow, like, if I'm going to be happy, it's temporary. If I'm going to be happy, it passes. This is the truth. This is the truth that all things will pass. And the only thing that does not pass is your soul, your essence, your true nature. So if you want to connect to the place of you that is not coming and going, if you want to connect to the place of you that is permanent, that is always experiencing joy and peace and love, that is always present, that is always safe, that is always okay and eternal. If you want to experience that, you connect to your true nature. The one who observes experiences, the one that observes polarities. So I hope you enjoyed today's video about non-duality and the duality of worlds and some of my perspectives, that it's the same, that both ends of the scale are one. They both exist for each other, and they can't exist without each other. Remember that. So thank you. Hope you enjoyed.